Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over this machine that I got from Beaver Industrial Supply. They were nice enough to send me a shirt, so I figured what the hell, I'll wear it, even though I'm not getting paid to do so. Just next time you guys at Beaver watching, large, because I am sucking in my gut right now, more than you can believe. Anyways, this is the Maksiwa Edgebander and the matching edge trimmer. I'm going to be unboxing these, putting them together, and then we're going to run it through its paces and see if I can't figure out the right way to get this machine to work. I've heard that that this machine, it takes a little time to get right. So luckily I've got plenty of scrap material, I've got plenty of edge banding, so we'll go through the process here. Before I get started though, I do want to mention that you know, as far as edge banders went, you know, there is the $400 version that you can get from Rockler or one of those, Amazon. There's this version, which between the edge bander and the trimmer, I think cost me about $3,300. And then of course you can move up to a fully automatic edge bander, which they start around 10 and go up from there. But this fits my budget for now, and so that's I'm going to make the best of it. Hopefully it saves me some time. That's the goal, because right now I've got my processes down to where I've cut out a lot of time that I didn't need to be spending. I've got everything pretty efficient. The thing that's taking me the longest now is edge banding all my pieces before assembly. So hopefully this will fix it. Let's see. All right, so everything was really nicely packed. This unit, the edge banding unit, is about 114 pounds. I wouldn't recommend doing this on your workbench. You might want to do this on the floor. I only did it up here so you could see, but it was a little heavy to get up here. Here's the trimmer. Both of these came with manuals to put them together and operate them. The trimmer comes with a nice Makita palm router, which it's nice to see them send a name brand that I'm familiar with instead of some sort of knockoff. So we're just going to get started. This, I believe, is pretty straightforward and quick to go together. The trimmer, I think it's going to take a little bit longer, judging from what I've seen on the internet. But let's see. Let's go ahead and start putting this together. All right, so the first thing they want us to do is tip this thing up on its side so that we can access the legs. Okay, so pretty straightforward. We're just going to take the bolts out of these leg supports that are here, and we'll attach these leg supports here at the base using the four bolts provided on each one of these support brackets. All right, now I'm just going to put on the adjustable feet. All right, so we're just going to take this little bracket here, take these bolts off. And then we'll mount this on the underside rear of this machine. All right, now I've installed the bracket on the back of this machine, but I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if you guys can see this. I'll focus here. If you look at the manual here, the way that this is, the way this looks here in the manual, that is not the way that the machine looks in real life. This bracket comes out quite a bit. It's the only way it goes on there. So it doesn't actually match the drawing very well. That's okay, because I think it's going to work just fine anyway. All right, so the instructions are telling me to turn on the machine. So this is 110 volts. I'm just going to use this heavy-duty extension cord here. All right, so I've got the machine on, and it's telling me to set the temperature of the machine. Now, the glue that I'm using is a Joat glue. It is the 282.20 low temperature glue, and the application temperature for this glue is 135 to 150 degrees Celsius. So I'm gonna set the temperature of this machine to 140, and we'll try that. And the way I'll do that is I'll come down to this little dial here, and the two center buttons are the up and down on the temperature setting. The top number here is what your glue temperature currently is, and the green number below it is what your temperature is set at. So I'm just gonna hit these up and down arrows until I'm at 140 degrees Celsius. And once I hit 140 degrees Celsius, this switch here is going to unlock, and the glue spindle will start turning. Okay, so the manual is telling me to cut a piece of this tape off, and I'll do that. I'm just going to cut off, I don't know, about 14 inches there of this. And it's telling me that we're going to have to adjust the machine for the thickness of this edge banding. Okay, and to do that, they want us to loosen these two 13mm bolts here. And then we're going to take the tape for the edge banding, and we're going to put it on this side of this aluminum rail, and we're going to push this up against this aluminum guide. And you don't want to force it too much. Just push it up there. And tighten these bolts back down. And they're saying not to remove this piece of tape. Now I'm just going to take a piece of wood here and check my alignment. I'm going to press the piece of wood back into this aluminum plate, and we're going to move this, and basically our guide here says it should move about 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter. And it seems to be moving quite a bit more than that. Okay, so the instructions are not super clear here. The instructions are saying that when I, or at least the way I understand them, when I push this wood through, this guide here should move about 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter as I'm pushing this through. Now out of the box, this thing was way forward, and I noticed that there is a stop here to allow us to adjust this distance. The directions don't seem to mention that unless it's somewhere else. But so what I've done is I've adjusted this roller assembly back a bit so that when I'm pushing this through, I'm just barely touching this roller to get that to push back the 0.5 millimeter that it's asking us to. And that seems to be good right there. Now I'm going to take my tape. This is super cheap tape that I probably will not use again. It's not great stuff here. But we're going to feed it in the machine, and we're going to try and calibrate this according to the directions here, which are not terribly clear. Okay, so there's this guide on the back here that we're going to loosen. I've got the tape in here, and we're just going to drop the guide onto the tape. We're going to make sure the tape still kind of moves freely in here, but there's not a whole lot of up and down movement. and then we'll bring this tape out a bit, and we'll have, I don't know, a good 4 inches here. I'm going to set this out. Okay, so I think we're ready to give this thing a try. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. I'll let this glue spindle glue up a bit here. This knob here is going to put less or more glue onto the spindle. So let's just go ahead and try and run this one through. All right, the good news is it's on there. The bad news is, A, I've got way too much glue. It's everywhere. And my tape is not aligned with my board here. So we'll have to figure out what's going on there. Okay, so I mentioned that this is super cheap edge banding right here, and now I know why. It's not a great quality. Plus, the manual recommends that your edge banding is about 4 millimeters wider than the piece that you're edge banding. Now this edge banding is exactly 3/4 of an inch. However, I have this better edge banding here that is 22 millimeters. So it's a bit wider than this one. So I'm going to switch them out, and just to make sure that that everything's kosher here, I am going to reset the depth here. I'll pull this test piece out, and I'll cut myself off a piece of this new one. I'll have to come back here again and adjust my height. Again, you want to make sure it's on here, but freely moving. And I think that feels pretty good. We'll see. Now I'm going to reset the distance on this back rail. This edge banding is also a little thicker than the one I had previously. I bought the cheap stuff because I figured I was going to go through quite a bit of it. Testing this thing out, and that's what I get for trying to save a buck. Alright, so it looks like we might be ready to try this again. Let's go for round number 2. I'm going to turn on the glue spindle. I'm going to turn the glue basically all the way down. I think this is all the way down as far as the amount of glue that it's going to apply. And let me get a new piece. Well, I'll just use this side. And now we've got a good, I've got a good, you can see here, basically 1/16 of an inch on this side, 32nd of an inch on this side overhang. Now I've got nice, good, complete coverage. There's a little glue on the front here. I don't know where that came from. Huh. And this thing got stuck when I cut. We'll try it again. But anyways, there it is. It's it seems like it's on there. Let's try and pull it off. Okay. So I don't know if you can see this, but I don't have a very good glue coverage on this bottom half of this wood here. It's nice and thick here, but it's pretty thin here on the bottom. So let's try and add a little bit of glue. I'm gonna get a different piece. Hopefully that has up the amount of glue there a little bit. And let's run this one through. All right, I've done something wrong. I am a little shy here. Maybe I wasn't pressing down hard enough, I don't know. I'm really proud on the other side. Let's peel this off. This is not, yeah, this is on here. It's on here. There's a little tiny bit here where the glue could be a little bit more. Let's turn it up just a hair. And try to keep good downward pressure on this, or good even pressure across this. See, it's peeling up a little bit. Let's try and increase the glue a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, this is an issue. I don't know if you can see this, but the edge of my ply is not square. So I'm gonna need to figure out if I've got a saw out of alignment or something somewhere. I usually keep them in pretty good shape. Let me see if I can find one that's got a nice, this edge here is nice and square. Let's try this one. Let's try this edge here. I'm moving basically as fast as the roller is spinning. The roller is kind of grabbing it and helping me time or pace the speed at which this goes through. Okay. Looks pretty good. Got a little 32nd of an inch overhang on one side, 1/16 of an inch overhang on the other. Let this cool down a second. And nope. No, that's pretty on there. I mean, as far as edge banding is concerned, I can tell you already that this is this is far superior to the iron-on edge banding. Okay? Looks pretty good. Got a little 32nd of an inch overhang on one side, 1/16 of an inch overhang on the other. Let this cool down a second. And nope. No, that's pretty on there. I mean, as far as edge banding is concerned, I can tell you already that this is this is far superior to the iron-on edge banding. Let's try it again. That's on there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine doing this with iron-on edge banding? So far so good. Okay, so real quick, I want to let you know that the packaging came with 3 of these tiny black, what look like set screws. They've got the Allen wrench head on them, and I couldn't figure out what they were for. And I was reading through the manual, and the manual didn't say what they were for. But then I finally figured out they go inside the back. And let me turn this so you can see it. They go inside this back plate right here. And what you could do with these is you'll take your Allen wrench and you can raise the level of this feeder so that you're getting a nice, consistent application of the edge banding right in the center of your workpiece, okay? And remember I said I had that cheap edge banding over there that I wasn't gonna use? Well, now I might be able to use it. If I can adjust this thing finely enough, I may be able to get that just on here perfectly. I don't know, let's see. That's not much. It's like a 64th of an inch on each side excess, which doesn't give me a whole lot of room to play, but I will try it and we'll see what happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to loosen these screws, these 2 screws that hold this plate on, and I'll put these adjusting set screws in here. Okay, I'm going to switch this out. I'm going to switch back to my cheap stuff. And when I say cheap, guys, I mean this edge banding over here is cheap. It was like 10 bucks for 300 and something feet. This is 300 feet. So that should tell you how thick this stuff is. It's not very thick at all. So we'll run this through here. I'm going to drop this adjuster again to make sure that I don't have any play in here, but it moves freely. Okay, that seems to be good. Okay, this engineering here is a little wonky, but I'm gonna see if I can't get this to line up here with this cheaper edge banding. Now you can't see this, and I can't really get the camera in there well enough, but right now the wood is sitting just higher, right? Like this. It's sitting just higher than the edge banding as it's coming through the machine over here. This edge banding needs to come up a bit. So I'm going to try and use these adjustment set screws here to raise this up. Okay, so it looks like maybe I've got it. I'm gonna go ahead and readjust this fence for this cheaper, thinner edge banding. All right, so I've got the cheap edge banding back in here. I think I've got this set up at the right height that I need. Let's see how I did. Okay, so if it weren't for operator error, that would have gone quite nicely. You'll notice that my back fence here, my guide, I had it a little too far out. So as I was coming down, sliding it down, I actually slipped off this rail and I lost contact with the glue head around here, and then the whole thing started to tip. But in the beginning, it's perfect. I mean, it's perfect. It's like 1/64 of an inch, if not less, just right over the edge. Let's trim this and try to run it through again on the other side. Now that I fixed this guide here, this fence. All right, try this again. There's a little more play in these rails than I would like, but I'm assuming I'll get used to it. Okay, this time I'm a little low on this side. I'm perfect over here. Again, this could just be me being new with this machine. Let's try it again. Okay, we skipped a beat there. Not good. Now things are starting to get a little messy. You know what, let me turn this thing. See what I'm doing. So I had a bit of a hiccup here, and now I've got glue basically all over the machine. So I'll just clean this out real quick. All right, let's try this again. Did not do a very good job getting glue here. That is because, once again, I do have it not perfectly. I'll have to see which saw. It's either my panel saw or my table saw. One of them is out of square, but you can see the edge here is not square, and that's why I'm having that trouble. Let's see. Both sides of this look good. Let's try it on this one. Again, in the very beginning, I'm off just a hair. Which means I may be pushing down. Maybe pushing down too much. Let's try the other side. All right, and that time I screwed it up in both directions. I'm a little off over here, and I'm a little off over here. So, but glue-wise, the glue's on there. There's enough of it. I don't have really an excess anywhere of any glue. And there my edge banding just broke. So, I think we know why this was $10. So anyways, that's that. It can be adjusted, but I'm gonna go back to, I'm just gonna use this better edge banding. And I think that the other stuff will just probably get tossed in the trash as a lesson learned. Okay, I've switched back to my better edge tape. I've reset everything, recalibrated everything. I'll run this through one last time with this thicker edge banding and see if I got the hang of this now. I learned here that you want to kind of keep pressure on this thing, especially right here where this rubber roller is. That's where this thing's making contact with the edge banding and the board. Now you'll see that that I've got a little lip here, got a little lip here, got plenty of room. I'll just trim it. And this is crappy plywood, but there you have it. And it is this glue is strong. Okay, I can peel up a little bit right there, but it might be because it's still a little warm. This is pretty darn strong. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That looks pretty good right there. That end is on nicely. So is the other one. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we had that pretty much dialed in. Let's go over and put together the trimmer. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these adjustable guides and we'll slide them in to this rail here. It says to leave about 2 inches, and then we'll take the nuts off the front of these rails. We'll leave about 2 inches exposed here. Okay, now once these are in place, the manual is telling me to lock these in place with our thumb knobs here. However, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to come closer. This is a little disheartening. They sent me 2 different lengths on these tighteners, on these thumb screws, and one of them is, I think, too short to hold it in. Indeed. So that is tightened all the way down, and this still moves freely. So this thumb screw here is too short. Okay, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Maksiwa, if you're watching this and you feel like sending me a thumb screw that's long enough, that'd be nice, because this one is, you can see, this one's all the way in. It is all the way in. And it still just slides freely. It's doing nothing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put on this front guide rail now. And I'll just have to kind of hold that manually. Ultimately, I don't think it'll ruin anything, but it would be nice to have things that fit, just generally speaking. Okay, I'll screw this one on. This hole looks like it's just off ever so slightly. If I can give myself a little bit of play here. All right, got it in there. So this was just off just a hair, making that kind of hard to get in there. They could have made this hole just a 32nd of an inch bigger in diameter, and that would not have been an issue. Because it's not like this hole needs to be perfectly sized. Okay, there's our rail. Okay, so now it's telling me to remove the screw, and I'm assuming they mean this bolt, from the shaft of the swinging support. This is the swinging support, I'm assuming, here. And just so I'm oriented the same way they are, they want us to install this back here. So I'm guessing right there. Our swinging support's going to go right through that rail, it seems. These are not the best instructions I've ever had. And the pictures leave quite a bit to be desired in the manual. Okay, and that moves freely there. As you can see it. So there's our swinging assembly there. Okay, so I'm going to put the piston on. These instructions, I'm sorry Maksiwa, these instructions are terrible. They're very vague. We're going to take the locking mechanism. Let me show you here. There's this little metal clip inside the top of this piston that goes in there, kind of snaps in there, and is removable, like so. Okay, this is going to fit over the head of the cap screw that's on that piston support, is what they're calling it. But that cap screw needs to be out a bit. Okay. You can't put that cap screw all the way in. You're just going to put it in a bit, and there's a nut behind it, not a lock nut, unfortunately, but a nut behind it that we can use to tighten it up. But that cap screw needs to be out a little bit so that this locking pin here can slide underneath the cap of the cap screw. Okay. So this might take a little bit of trial and error here. But I'm backing this off about, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little less. Let's see if that works. That does not work. Let's pull it out to a full 1/8, maybe even 3/16. That's not going to do the trick either. Closer to 1/4 here. And that seems to be it right there. A little closer to 1/4 inch. And then we'll just slide this locking pin back in. But what I noticed is that actually if you have this pin in here and you just go ahead and seat it, if I can get it back in there. And seat that back in there. Just back this cap screw off. I've lost the nut here. Hold on. Okay. Then you can just slide it over, and it should If you have it out far enough, it should kind of snap right in. There we go. Now I actually had to come out. There it is. Okay. Tighten up that 10mm bolt that's on there. And we'll do the same down here. This thing's sticking out a bit, so I'm going to just go ahead and well, I was going to put it in, but it's welded on there. So we'll just slip this piston right on there like that. And there we got our piston. And honestly, this thing doesn't feel like it's doing much. Oh well. Okay, now we've got the collet off, or we've got the collar off. I'm just going to pull out the collet that's in the router and replace it with the correct collet. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and put this bit in here. And then I'm not going to tighten this down just yet because I don't know how far this this bit needs to stick out. Okay. Okay. So now it's saying loosen the knob of the swinging support. That's this here. That's going to loosen this ring. And then we're going to install the router with the power button facing up in here. And what they're saying is positioning it so that the blades of the cutter exceed approximately 1.5 millimeters in front of the frontal guide plate, and then tighten the knob again. So we're gonna push this router in until we have about 1.5 millimeters, which means that I can go ahead. I'm gonna insert this bit all the way in, and I'll go ahead and tighten it now with the bit all the way seated inside the collet. Okay. Now I'll come in here. Power button facing up, they said, which is right there. I'm going to take about 1.5 millimeters, which hopefully my American standard units is in my head is working correctly. And we'll tighten this knob to hold the router in place. Alright. It feels like it's in there. Now, I will tell you, as this thing is swinging up, the blade is actually moving that way. So when it's at the bottom, I have that 1.5 millimeters, but not when it's at the top. So I'm going to reset this. I'm going to pull it to the top, reset this to that 1.5 millimeters. So I'm a little long at the bottom of this motion, of this articulation. I'm at like 2 millimeters, but when I'm up at the top, I'm closer to that 1.5 maybe even dangerously flirting with 1 millimeter there. But let's see how it works. Back to the instructions. Cutter alignment. The horizontal alignment of the cutter did at the factory. However, for possible adjustments, using the key 13, okay, that is a 13 millimeter wrench, all right, loosen the screw of the eccentric washer, that would be here, and turn it until the cutter shaft center is aligned to the line of the surface of the sliding guide of the table. So what they're saying is, when you are at the bottom of this articulation and you're looking at this from the front, you should be looking directly at the center of the arbor, or the center of the bit. The center of the bit should be aligned with this guide rail here. Mine is not. Mine's a little high. So I'll go ahead and loosen the nut that's holding on this eccentric bolt here, and I'll lower this. And strangely, it won't go any lower. It won't go any lower because the cutout in this, whatever this is, it feels like HDPE. The cutout for the bit here is not long enough. It's not allowing it to go down any further, but it's pretty close. So I'm just going to go ahead and set this eccentric washer back where as low as it'll go. And then if I have to, I think I could, if it's an issue, I think I could probably turn the router on with the router up. I could probably turn it on and then slowly lower it, and I could probably carve out just a hair from this HDPE here. But I think we're close enough. We'll see what happens. All right, so here goes our first attempt of this whole process. Okay, that part looks good. I've got a nice even reveal, if you want to call it that, on each side. Let's run it to the trimmer and see how that does. Okay, so in the manual, it mentions the spring tension on the scraper, and I have just an ever so slight lip. I mean ever so slight. I mean, it's not even, you can't even see it. I can't even, it's not something I can even show you on camera. You'd never see it. But it's there. It's just a very, very tiny lip on it. So let's see what the manual says about adjusting the spring on this scraper. Okay, so to increase the spring on this scraper, we're going to basically loosen this nut on the bottom, and then we're going to turn this top nut a bit to compress this spring, right? So we have a bit more back pressure on it, and then we can retighten this nut. And of course, that has raised our block, so we'll have to put our piece back in here and reset the height on this scraper block. Okay, and again, just that downward pressure with one thumb. And let's see how that works. All right, I think we've got it. Okay, so one thing that's already apparent to me is that I'm glad I'm building a station to house both of these units, because I'm obviously going to have to go from one station to the next over and over and over again. I'm not going to be able to, I don't think, we could try it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to edge band all four sides of something and then run it through the trimmer. I think I'm going to have to edge band one side, run it through the trimmer, edge band the next side, run it through the trimmer, and so on and so forth. Now I can tell you that previously it took me about 10 minutes, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes with an iron and by hand to edge band all four sides of a top or a door or whatever it is. So let's compare. Let's run through this and do four sides of something and see how long it takes me and see what kind of time savings this is going to be for us. All right, so that process from start to finish took me 2 minutes 52 seconds, and that includes me moving from here to over on the other side of the table, which when I build this into its own station, I won't have to do that. I'll just go right across. But there you have it. three minutes to do this. That's this video. I hope you liked it. I have a shaper coming. I have a new bandsaw coming, and we're doing some insulation upgrades on the shop here. So if you want to see those videos, hit subscribe, because they're going to be coming out in the next few weeks. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Yes, sir?